Hello everyone, my name is Lenny from Code with Lenny Learn, and in this video we are going to be downloading and getting all the resources that we will require for building our machine learning project. So to start off, we'll be using the Python programming language, and we can download it from python.org. Head on to the downloads and you will see download for Windows Python 3.8.5. So I've already downloaded Python, so I'm just going to cancel this because I already have it. Next, we're going to need a text editor where we'll be writing our Python code, and we can get this from sublimetext.com. You can use Sublime Text, you can use VS Code, you can use Atom, you can use PyCharm, you can use Spider IDE, whichever IDE or text editor you're comfortable with. Just download it and set it up. So I can download Sublime Text from this download button over here. And if you're interested in getting VS Code, just head on to their website and click on the download link here. So once we have everything downloaded, we can go to our downloads folder and start installing them. So I will start with Python. And the important thing to note when installing Python, well, I already have it installed, so it's not going to give me the same setup as it might give you. But the important thing to note when installing Python is there will be a checkbox labeled Add Python 3.8 to path. Make sure that you've added the Python installation to path so that you can access it from the command line. So I'm going to cancel there. And then the same goes on with Sublime Text. So I haven't actually installed Sublime Text. I'll install it alongside with you. Go next, install. And this should be done in less than a minute. And then, of course, if you're using VS Code or Atom or any other IDE, you can simply click on it and install it as we did. So the other tool that we'll need for machine learning is Scikit-Learn, commonly known as Sklearn. So you can head over to sklearn.org and you can just read on what they provide and what Sklearn is all about. But to get this tool, we're not going to install it as we did with the rest of the installations. We're simply going to go to our command line. You can press Windows Start and type CMD to get the command prompt. I have slightly modified mine so that the text is a little bigger for you to see it well. So first things first, before we even start installing the packages like Sklearn, we have to ensure that we've installed Python the correct way. So go to your command line and type Python. And if Python loads up, well then you have installed Python correctly. And so if you do not see this, it means that you did not add Python to path. So make sure Python is added to path during the installation so that you can access Python from the command line. So you can quit out of Python by typing quit with some brackets or parentheses and hit enter. So we are out of the Python interpreter, and type pip install sklearn. This will take some time depending, of course, on your network speed. So give it some time and it will tell you once it's completed. Sklearn also needs a couple of dependencies for it to run. So it will also get them automatically for you, such as NumPy, which you can see is being downloaded automatically as part of the pip install sklearn command, and we don't have to install NumPy separately. So once those are completed, there's another tool that I forgot to talk about known as Pandas. So we'll do pip install Pandas. So Pandas is a tool that is going to help us work with the data. Remember, machine learning is all about studying information from the data. So we are going to use Pandas to open the files, manipulate the data, among many other things that we'll get to see in the future. And since Pandas has finished installing, I believe we have all the tools that we require. So by now I hope that you have downloaded Python, you have downloaded your favorite text editor or IDE, and you have installed all the Python packages that we require. Just type in the command line pip install pandas and pip install Scikit-Learn to get all the things that we'll require for this series. So now with the installs completed, we can now start up Sublime Text and ensure that all the packages were correctly installed. So as I can see, I do not have the latest version of Sublime Text. I can download right now, but to save time, I won't. Okay, so to get started with Sublime Text, I'm first going to create a new file, and I'm going to hit Ctrl S to save, and I'm going to save this file in the desktop, create a folder, Machine Learning Basics by Lenny. And then I'm just going to call this file sample.py because it's a Python file, as we'll be using the Python language. And firstly, my text is too small for you to see, so I'm going to increase the font size. That's better. Import Scikit-Learn. And I'm also going to say import my Pandas. So if this file runs without any errors, then we are good to go. So in Sublime Text, you can press Ctrl B, select Python, and it's going to start building the app, and it's going to start running the file. And if everything is correct, it should say finished in whatever time it takes for your system to get things done. And as long as there are no errors here, well, we have everything that we need. One more thing with my installation, you might see kite at the status bar down here. You might not have kite installed, so do not worry about it. We won't need it in this tutorial, but I just thought I should mention it in case you're wondering why your text editor looks a bit different from mine. So now that we have everything working, we can now talk about the project that you're going to be building throughout this series. So I'll switch over to my slide, and let's talk about customer churn prediction. So it might seem like a huge vocabulary, but trust me, this is going to be a very simple project for us to begin with. So what is customer churn? This is whereby customers of a business no longer purchase or interact with the business. Basically, customer churn is when customers of your app or your brand or your business or your company stop coming back. Maybe they do not like your product, or maybe they found a better product. This is what is known as customer churn. Customer churn is bad, obviously, but for business, this is normal. Maybe the customer was just passing by and having a taste of your product, trying to sample different products before the customer decides on which product to go with. Or maybe your product is not as user-friendly as they opted for, so eventually they leave. For your app to be sustainable or your business to be sustainable, new customers must always be more than the leaving or churning customers. So as long as you have new customers every month and a few are leaving, well then your business is good. However, if the rate of churn or the rate of customers leaving is more than the rate of customers signing up for your product, well, there might be a problem, and this is where you get feedback from the users. Maybe there's something you need to change, maybe the price is too high, etc. Moving on, let's take a look at an example problem. A television show company, conveniently called the Coding TV Show, has asked us to predict the customer churn of new customers. The company is planning to expand to cover more cities as profitably as possible. So a company has approached us and they have asked us to do some research to ensure that as they expand to the most profitable cities. And as we move on to the next slide, you'll come to see that this is a very suitable machine learning problem. So this is the data that the coding TV show has provided us with. These are a sample of their customers. Customer 1, 2, 3, 4. Their age, salary, street address, as well as Wi-Fi connectivity. Say, for example, the city in which the coding TV show is being hosted is quite remote, and so not everyone has Wi-Fi. And this becomes an important attribute when considering whether or not the customers will keep on watching the coding TV show. At the end of the table, you can see the churn. Now this is whether or not the customers came back. So in the first one, the first customer with customer ID 1 did not come back. So this customer churned or left. The second customer remained. So the coding TV show has retained this customer. Moving on to customer ID 3, this customer churned, ID 4 did not churn. So the question is, can we use this data provided to us by the coding TV show to find out which cities will be most profitable by ensuring that we get as low customer churn as possible? And this is going to be a machine learning problem, since we can study the age and how it relates to churning. We can study the salaries and how it relates to churning. We can study the street address. Maybe people from different streets prefer the coding TV show and people from other streets do not prefer the coding TV show. And maybe Wi-Fi is a huge factor in determining whether or not a customer will watch the coding TV show. The good thing with machine learning is that we do not have to work with only these 4 customer IDs. In fact, for a real company, they might have data for 1,000 or 1,000,000 customers. And so if we were to do this manually, using the traditional methods, we will get overwhelmed pretty quickly. But with machine learning, we can be able to study all these factors: the age, salary, street address, Wi-Fi, and how they relate to customer churn. Okay, so maybe the age is not taken into account when determining the churn. Maybe 3 of these variables are irrelevant. Maybe we only need to know whether or not they are connected to Wi-Fi, and this will give us a pretty accurate assessment of whether or not this customer will remain and will keep on watching the coding TV show. Okay, so with machine learning, we are able to study all these variables and pick out the most important variables or attributes in order to predict the customer churn rate. So given the company's historical data, we can now use machine learning and train a model to be able to predict whether or not, based on age, salary, and street address, as well as Wi-Fi, whether or not that customer will keep on watching the coding TV show or will just leave. And since different cities have different population analytics, such as age, you can find out in one city the average age is 30, in another one it's 20, in another one it's 60. Also, different cities have different connectivity. So in one city, all the households could be connected to Wi-Fi, while in another, only 1 in every 50 households is connected to Wi-Fi. Moving on, a city might have the average salary of the working class as $1,000. Another one might have it as $500, etc. And so by using all this information, we can use our machine learning model to predict which cities will be most profitable by looking at the most advantageous features or attributes for the company to ensure most profitability. In the next video, we will start building out such a problem using a real company's data. It's going to be an interesting video, and we're going to build this step by step, and I will explain everything as we move on. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.